Yes.
Something, right? You do just a zillion and then you.
Guys, would you like an agenda?
We have one here.
Great.
I don't like the way that this looks.
Anyway.
And I don't like the font. It's gone and everything.
All these.
I would love to. Actually, that was interesting.
You know what I mean?
I'd like to know about workshop. We have our sense of direction. We're going to do that.
I think open, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I used to use that for quite a bit.
You're allowed to.
Necessarily, I mean, it depends.
My watch. Good morning, everyone. I see that it's 10 a.m. Welcome. Today is September 25th. This is Economic Development Subcommittee. It's nice to see everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order and I want to do introductions, even though that's not formally on the agenda. Always nice to know who we are in the room with, even if we all know each other, but you know, maybe someone's having a brain cramp and can't remember someone's name. Not that I'm sure that that's happening. So Kate Collin, I have the honor of serving as mayor for our community.
Angela Robinson Pignone, Assistant City Manager here with the City of San Rafael.
I'm Miriam. I'm the Director for the Marin Small Business Development Center.
Selena Smith, Community and Economic Development, Senior Management Analyst.
I'm Stacy Lauman, Economic Development Senior Management Analyst.
I'm Michael Scott, Policy Intern for CED.
I'm Stephanie Plant, the only person so far that doesn't work here. I am the Chair of the Chamber's East San Rafael Working Group. I also own a business in East San Rafael that's been going for as many years as I've been alive, called CPI Developers. We're located adjacent to Home Depot.
I'm Roger Smith. I'm a local commercial property owner. My business has also been here. Wow.
Longer than I've been on.
I'm also on the chamber board and I'm here just as a visitor today.
Sarah Tipple, Director of the Business Improvement District. I also work for the Petaluma Downtown Association and the Mill Valley Fall Art Festival.
Good morning. My name is Micah Hinkle. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director.
My name is Robert Lane. Family owns 175 Belvedere Street, 4th generation in Marin County.
Michael Bradford, I'm representing Harbor Apartments across the street from Robert.
Great. And I'm Mary Beth Boucher, this year, the Vice Mayor of San Rafael.
Yes. Well, thank you all for taking a moment to do that. Our first agenda item is to approve the minutes, as this is a subcommittee. They're a little bit more formal, even though it's an informal group and we have great informal conversation, we do have formalities. So is there any changes, Vice Mayor, to the minutes as presented?
Nope.
Okay, do you have a motion?
I move that we adopt the minutes as presented.
I second it. All in favor? Aye. That motion carries. The first item agenda is open time for public expression, and that's for folks that are in the room. We take it only from in the room, and you have 2 minutes, and we'd love to hear from you. If it's not, we'd love to hear from you regardless. If it's an agenda item, we request that you wait till that agenda item. Otherwise, we're open to hear from anyone now. So.
Well, since I wasn't on the agenda, I would love to
Okay.
just check in and let everybody know about SBDC for a
Okay,
second.
and I'm gonna do, I'm
gonna pass out some flyers. I just want to let everybody know we have some really great workshops coming up. If you wanted to let businesses in the community know, we have one about HR deadline compliances for retirement. We have one on getting noticed more on Google, and another one that we just created, which is new, which is understanding the funding landscape, because we hear a lot from community members that would be helpful. So we are going to do a discussion with some lenders to help business owners understand like what helps get approved and what doesn't get approved. So I'll pass that out. We also have a new program in Spanish, which I'll just pass out if you know anyone in that's interested. It's in person at Canal Alliance office. And we have one online, one in person, and then we have our Construyendo program. So I'll just pass the flyers out if you guys would like, but we would love to let more people in the community know that these are here for them to grow their business and get better skills. Let me just pass that way.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak during open time? No, I'm not seeing anyone. I do see we have some folks that have joined us. We already did a round of introductions, but if you could just say who you are. You guys can sit at the grown-up table if you'd like to, but it's up to you.
You don't want to.
Grown up. We'll sit.
Okay. Why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and what organization you're with?
Chris Hart, with the Single Prime Real Estate Fund.
Thank you, Josh.
Hey, Josh Townsend with Strategic 32. Thank you.
Right, my name is.
I can't see.
Cecilia.
Cecilia Zamora, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Marin, President.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, we are now on agenda item 4, which is economic development partner updates. I see 2 on there from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and San Rafael Chamber of Commerce. So go ahead, Cecilia. Your timing was excellent.
It's good timing. So I just have a couple of things to report. I wanted to let you know, first of all, thank you so much for the proclamation for National Hispanic Heritage Month. It was very well received. Got a lot of hits on LinkedIn when I posted our picture, so it was great. I wanted to let you know also that we're working with Lindsay Lara, the city clerk, to do more work on our commissions and increasing diversity on commissions and boards for the city of San Rafael, the city of Nevada, and the county of Marin. But this year, we're going to be focusing with the city of San Rafael, and Lindsay's going to help us do that. We're focusing on recruitment and retention, but also public awareness of the importance of being on a board or commission. I think that's one of the lack of access is people just don't know how important it is for them to participate. And then we are hosting tonight, actually, a wonderful event with the Marin Sanitary Services at the Marin Shakespeare Theater. It's called the Landfill Harmonic Concert with our fall mixer. So we're having that tonight. So if anybody's still interested, the registration is still open. And anyways, that's my report. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. Excellent report. Let's go to the San Rafael Chamber of Commerce. So who's giving the report?
I can give you an East San Rafael working.
I'm sure you can, but it's a San Rafael Chamber of Commerce.
So that means there is no place for East San Rafael working. Is that correct?
If you want to do a minute,
We used to do it under the chambers section.
you go, Stephanie.
In Karen's absence, I'd be happy to take 1 minute.
Thank you. And then I'll turn to you, Sarah.
Perhaps we could say that the chamber's having I think there's a fancier name than job fair today, but there is a job fair at
Showcase.
Showcase, thank you, at 4 o'clock this afternoon at the B Street, at the rec center. That is the revamp of what used to be the business showcase, which I think is fantastic. And the East San Rafael Working Group is expecting to host Supervisor Bodoni on October 9. So, done, 1 minute.
Yeah.
It was good.
That was
Super interested in agenda item 5A.
We're getting there. Okay.
Thank you for putting that on the agenda.
Sarah, BID, go ahead.
Hi, guys. I haven't seen you guys in a long time, so I'm excited. I do have a lot of updates because I haven't been here for a while, but we have, Saturday is the Hops and Vines stroll. Take one, pass it around. What I'm noticing in all across the board and a lot of events that I manage or help manage is that drinking is going down. Attendance is up, but drinking is going down. So at our Mill Valley Fall Art Festival on Saturday, we had over 3,000 people and we sold less than 300 units of beverages. But I think this event's a little bit different because it's strolly and fun and it's a sampling event. So if everyone in this room sold 5 tickets, downtown would be booming because I'm hoping to get about 400 to 500 people. We had a couple rainy bits and pieces there, so attendance was down, but it was still a lot of fun. So that's happening this weekend. We also have our annual meeting in Mixer on Tuesday. Everyone here is invited. Please RSVP. It's at 22 Lounge. We're going to be sharing our annual report and budget as a draft to our community members and our business members. And on that draft report, I'm going to be sharing the 21 programs that we have been managing and trying to improve. We have our promotion and marketing programs through our social media. We've been doing weekly IJ ads to promote our business event calendar, which is on our website. And the business event calendar is really cool because all the businesses can put whatever it is that they're doing, a trivia night, an anniversary, a party, a fundraiser. So it all lands straight on our homepage. And that's been getting blasted out by the Marin IJ every single week. We also have our February promotion that we promote with via Smart. We have our multiple beautification programs, our mulching intersections, which is volunteer run, our graffiti removal funding that we support Tom, who was a volunteer, but we've been helping him financially to pay for the supplies. And then obviously our Clean and Green Day event, which you guys are all a part of. Our business engagement mixers, we host a mixer at the Pacifics. We have our fall mixer, which is this Tuesday, and then we always have our holiday mixer, which is usually an ugly sweater prize, and it's a lot of fun, and it's just great to be around the community. And then we have our community and arts events that we've been putting on, the Lunar New Year Art Walk, the Pride Art Walk, and then the Trick or Treat on 4th Street, which is coming up. And then our big fundraising events, May Madness, Dancing Under the Lights, and then the Hops and Vines Stroll. And then we also have our arts programming, our Distrat art programming. I've been working closely with Stacy on, which is really great. And I'm hoping to try to launch this year a permanent utility box art program. So if anybody sees a naked utility box and they want to see some art on it, right now there's no system in place to get that done. So I want to create that system and make it look really good for our city. And then we have our holiday promotions, the holiday window contest, the Elf Hunt, Shop Small, menorah lighting, and our West End holiday promotions. And those are our programs, which I'm going to be talking about in our mixer on Tuesday.
Okay, wow, I took a breath after hearing you say all that.
Been a whole year.
I love, you know, and when people are like, there's nothing going on downtown, I'm like, well, I'm paying attention and we got to keep getting the word out. So
Yeah.
thank you for having all those incredible events. Any quick questions? Or move on to agenda item 5A that Stephanie can't wait to hear as others in this room. Okay, not seeing it. And I do want to know, do you want to introduce yourself, Aaron? Did you get to come in late?
Yeah, sorry I'm late, everybody. Aaron Burnett, I'm the Director of Policy and Civic Engagement at Canal Alliance.
Nice to see you. And I also want to recognize that our city manager was online, but she's right underneath that bar that says this meeting's being recorded. Sorry, city manager Lilovich, I didn't see, so.
No worries. Nice to see everybody.
Just click.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So she's here. Anyways, we know who's in there. All right, so I think there's a lot of excitement about this mobile vending program update, and I will turn it over to Assistant City Manager Robinson Pignon.
All right. And yes, of course. And then I'll hand it off to Assistant Director Greg Miner, who's going to kick us off, and then I'll do a few of the slides.
Oh, okay. Heads down there.
Good morning. I don't know, should I stay here or should I move? Is this something?
Are you gonna be talking and pointing to the slides?
Yeah.
Then why don't you come down here? Otherwise, we're a little bit of the Wimbledon thing going on, so. Yeah.
Here, you can take my seat.
Thank you. All right, good morning again, Greg Miner with Community Economic Development. So on this first slide here, I just wanted to kind of provide some background, make sure we're all on the same page in terms of what problems we're trying to solve, why are we discussing mobile vending. So as part of the City Council's 3-year strategic plan that was adopted back in June, one of the goals that City Council adopted was specifically to revise the street food vending ordinance and develop an implementation, enforcement, and communications plan. So that's essentially the catalyst for today's discussion. And could we go back a slide, please?
Sorry, yeah.
And the reason for that is because the current state of mobile vending presents multiple challenges in San Rafael, as folks here are largely aware of. First, just, from a nuisance perspective, we have an image here of an unpermitted food vending operation from last fall that our code enforcement staff and Marin County environmental health colleagues were addressing. Unpermitted food vendors such as that, the ones featured here, there's the foodborne illness concerns, there's no temperature controls, it's not clear how they're disposing of grease or trash associated with their vending operation, especially if they don't have access to a commercial kitchen or a commissary. They could potentially be blocking the public right of way for people in wheelchairs. There's potentially late night noise, all of those kind of general public nuisance issues. Also, if they're not contributing any business and sales tax, all of this creates an unlevel playing field between unpermitted vendors and permitted vendors and brick and mortar businesses. There's also the challenge from the perspective of just community members. Clearly, there's a demand, especially in the Canal neighborhood, as we're going to see in an upcoming slide where we have most of our unpermitted vending or mobile vending in general. There's a strong demand for access to affordable food options such as those seen in or offered by mobile vendors. And then from the perspective of vendors themselves, what we've heard from vendors that we've connected both in San Rafael and other jurisdictions, and what we've heard from directly from our colleagues in environmental services and with Marin County, is the challenge of getting a health permit, specifically having access to a commercial kitchen, and navigating the red tape associated with that. So there's generally a variety of challenges that we're trying to address. So if you can jump to the next slide.
All right, so I'll take this slide. And so this kind of shows some of the locations where enforcement or engagement with unpermitted food vendors have occurred. Again, as Greg noted, most of this is within the Canal neighborhood, but we've seen unpermitted food vending in downtown. And so we're going to update this map and when we bring this to council so that the community can see the breadth of where unpermitted food vending is occurring throughout the city. And so you can see with the key, we have unpermitted food vendors. We also have permitted food vendors that are actually operating as well. Mobile food, unpermitted food trucks. And so again, we want to build this out so that the community is aware it's not just within the canal, although the canal is certainly heavily impacted. East San Rafael is heavily impacted, but we want to show where this vending is also occurring in the downtown areas, in the vicinities of schools, so that the community is aware of the scope of the issue that we're trying to address. Next slide, please.
So that map was only the canal area?
We're going to build it out to have the, so you can see for the entire city.
Okay, so before jumping to, what should we do about these challenges? First wanted to ground us in what can the city legally do? And that is largely dictated by SB 946, which was a state bill in 2019 that the state legislature adopted explicitly to promote entrepreneurship and support immigrant and low-income communities. And what the law essentially did was restricted how local governments can restrict vending in the sidewalk, and essentially limited to regulations that address objective health, safety, or welfare concerns. And it eliminated any criminal penalties, so decriminalized sidewalk vending. We have a couple examples in the next few slides of what cities can still regulate, but one of the things that SB 946 explicitly rejected was the consideration of economic competition as an objective health, safety, or welfare concern.
All right, next slide, please. So following up on Greg's overview of SB 946, so cities can prohibit stationary vendors in residential zones outright. Again, that's one thing that SB 946 allows. We can prohibit from locating near certified farmers markets, sidewalk vending in a park, but that is only if a city has an exclusive concessionaire agreement for that site. So in San Rafael, we don't have exclusive concessionaire agreements for that site, so that wouldn't be something that would be available to the city. Limitations on hours are allowed, but they cannot be unduly restrictive. So again, the city is unable to ban this type of activity outright, and SB 946 lays out the parameters that the city can pursue. Next slide. So continuing with that theme, we can require vendors to maintain sanitary conditions. They must comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So again, you can't obstruct the sidewalk. You can't prevent the flow of pedestrian traffic. We can require them to obtain permits. And so that will be something that will be a part of our ordinance program that we'll bring forward at a later date. And we can require compliance with other laws. So the environmental health provision. So again, addressing the objective health and safety standards that brick and mortar businesses have to come into compliance with. We can require those for food vendors. All right, next slide, please.
All right, so based on the experience the last couple of years, the city had a Together San Rafael interdepartmental working group looking into this last year, where we talked to vendors as well as met with folks in the city of Richmond who've established a program, and we talked to other jurisdictions. These are sort of we've identified 3 general recommendations that are highlighted in these bubbles on the screen here. And I'm gonna walk through those, the different strategies, and then on the next slide, we'll talk about next steps and welcome recommendations and questions and thoughts from this subcommittee. So the first kind of pillar is enhancing enforcement. So we are restricted in many ways because of Senate Bill 946, but there are, as Angela described, regulations that the city can put in place to ensure that the vending is done, for example, without blocking access to those in wheelchairs, to ensure vendors clean up their vending operations, and essentially establishing time, place, and manner restrictions. And so that could be done by adopting a mobile vending permitting ordinance. The second component or related to that, it's one thing to have laws, but it's another thing to actually enforce laws. And so we've been in discussions with our counterparts with Marin County, specifically the Environmental Services Division, because they have more authority under the state food code to address some, as I think Angela alluded to enforce some violations of the food code, whether it's through confiscation of unpermitted food or actual impoundment of equipment used by an unpermitted vendor. We've had instances where despite efforts to issue citations or even confiscate the food, we've had vendors tell our code enforcement staff, you need to take this equipment, otherwise they are going to send me back. Because these are larger operations. I think our estimate at this time is 75% of the vending is happening from vendors outside of San Rafael. And so unfortunately, some folks are not deterred by administrative citations or even confiscation of the food that they're planning on selling that evening. So we've been talking to them about entering into a memorandum of understanding to take advantage of their additional enforcement authority under state law to address those repeat offenders. And then the third component is to contract with a third party to enhance our capacity in code enforcement. Our code enforcement staff are already fully booked, if you will. They have multiple programs that they, inspecting building facilities and things of that nature that take up essentially 100% of their time. So they're only available on overtime when they can to enforce, and that's not a consistent enough enforcement strategy. So additional strategy we've identified is using some funds in our budget to expand our staffing capacity. So beyond just enforcement, we've identified two other strategies. So in terms of offering paths to legalization by adopting a permitting program, we can provide multiple pathways for vendors to come into compliance, whether it's in the public right of way or even private property, if the private property owner provides permission to those vendors. There's a temporary use provision under the planning code where potentially you can have like a parking lot that's underutilized at certain times of day or days of the week. You could have multiple vendors on site, economies of scale, efficiency in terms of disposing of trash and bathroom facilities, what might be needed. And that way you'd also maybe discourage some of the blocking of the public right of way. So we could, as a city, adopt an ordinance just providing multiple options, because clearly there is demand, and simply attempting to prohibit it, whether we can do so legally or not, is not going to really resolve the issue. And then the third strategy is to actually support those local entrepreneurs who want to come into compliance with coming into compliance. And that could be done. I think the first step in that process would just be confirming which vendors are from San Rafael and what are the barriers that they're encountering. Anticipate that will be access to a commercial kitchen, bilingual technical assistance navigating health permitting requirements, and potentially taking advantage of some sort of economies of scale, food park destination, to have one point of contact managing compliance issues. And that, in so doing, kind of directing the demand towards permitted vendors and discouraging folks from supporting unpermitted vendors. You can go to the next slide.
Can I ask a quick question? We're mostly talking not.
Can you wait? Hold your question. Let's just finish and then we'll go through. I'm sorry. You just go ahead and write it down. Yeah.
So here are the general next steps in terms of this process. So we are hoping to hear from the Economic Development Subcommittee. Obviously, we have members of the public who can share their perspectives, and council members can share direction and ask questions. Then we'll incorporate the feedback we receive into a larger legislative package, which will likely consist of the permitting ordinance, new fees for the permitting program, and a resolution to enter into an MOU with Marin County's Environmental Services Division. And then then the path forward that we're suggesting would consist of establishing these programs, connecting with community-based organizations and vendors, establishing our application process, coming up with educational materials so that we can fully implement it in time for the next, warmer season. Although I'm not sure if we still have seasons in California, but theoretically there's rain that happens in the winter and there's less vending activity. So the idea is to kind of have everything in full swing before the next warm season when vending generally picks up. So that's the presentation, and welcome comments and questions.
Thank you. So what we'll do is we'll have questions from Vice Mayor and myself, and then we'll have questions from the rest of the committee. So thank you for your patience, and then we can have a discussion. So let's just start with questions first. We can go ahead, Vice Mayor.
My question is about enforcement, and you indicated that we could prohibit all vending in residential areas. What's the definition of a residential area?
Actually, we're not allowed, so there's some nuances in SB 946 where local jurisdictions can't ban roaming sidewalk vendors regardless of the zone. We could restrict stationary vendors from residential zones. And then I think Angela pointed out there are, time, place, manner restrictions, like you can't be vending at 1 a.m, even if you're a roaming vendor in residential areas.
So what's a roaming vendor?
Like a push cart
A
where
push
somebody
cart,
moves
okay.
around,
Okay,
as
but that,
opposed to someone who's in a fixed place and the customers are coming to them.
right, but but we can, the fixed ones, we can prohibit in any residential area.
Correct. And then we can define, I think you were asking, how do we define a residential area?
Right.
It's up to us, and we welcome feedback from this committee on.
Okay, so we could draw a big circle and define that as a residential area, no fixed operations there.
I think, yes, as long as it complies with SB 946. So we have some flexibility, but we can't be unduly restrictive to essentially prohibit vending.
Okay. All right, that's my primary question.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I just have two questions. Again, context, you talked about, it's shocking, 75% are folks that are outside San Rafael. So I have the percentage. What is it in absolute numbers? Are we talking 1,000 people, 100 people? And I know that's hard, but even just a range so that.
Yeah, I would probably, we included some statistics in the informational report from different enforcement operations. So I think it's more like on a given night, and we also have, community members who can attest to what they observe as well. But we've seen things more like in dozens as opposed to hundreds or thousands.
Okay, that's helpful. Hundreds. And then you said something really interesting at the end, like around the seasonality of it. So we've been encouraging the community that when they see unpermitted, when they see street vending, to go ahead and fill out the form on there. Do you also have it by month? I love the map by location because everyone thinks it's only in their backyard, and we do know that there are concentrations, but it also be street elsewhere. Do you also have that data parsed by month?
I think we could gather it.
That'd be just to support what we're doing here, because my sense is it's the same. It tends to really, really balloon. But maybe not. Maybe what we find is if it's consistent throughout the year, we might have a slightly different strategy. I don't know, and it might change over time. Okay, so those were the two questions. Okay, Cecilia, thank you so much for your patience. I'd love to hear your question. There's no apology needed. Go ahead, what's your question?
Well, first of all, I didn't hear the word food trucks. I'm wondering, is that going to be included in the strategic thinking? Because haven't heard it in San Rafael from my members, but in Nevada, they're having issues with food trucks.
Food trucks are not a sidewalk vendor, and this presentation was focused mostly on sidewalk vendors. So we can regulate food trucks. I believe there's an existing code provision, but it's rather flexible. I'm looking at Director Hinkle because I think he may be more familiar with it than I am.
That's one of the few regulations we have on the books related to food trucks, and that's something we've had for a part of 30+ years. It's really kind of an older one. It's really considered like for construction job worker, one like food trucks, not to how it's evolved over time, where food trucks are much different comparative. Like our requirement says you can vend for like 15 minutes and you gotta move. But they said there is an update opportunity on that, but we really have not had the issues related to the food truck concerns related to the it's been really more focused on the sidewalk. vending.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it from San Rafael, but I have heard of it from Nevada, so just let you know. And then this, the idea of residential, does it go by the zoning when you have mixed zones, when you have residential and business? Would you be able to differentiate
Yeah, I
that?
think Vice Mayor Bushy was kind of alluding to that. We can, as a city, define how we, what zones we want to allow stationary vendors. We don't have that same flexibility when it comes to roaming vendors because of
So
state law.
it doesn't conflict with the zoning issue. Like you have a business and residence together, you could still say this is a residential place, you can't. I guess is what I'm saying.
For stationary vendors, yes.
Yeah. Other questions? Yeah.
I'm
Stephanie.
gonna start sleeping in my office so that you can define it as residential. So I'm adjacent to Home Depot. As I'm sure you all know, we have a 365 days a year. There is a food mobile vendor on the corner as you drive into the Home Depot parking lot. He is not weather dependent. There is also a food truck, and I appreciate you bringing it up because it blocks traffic on
Ask your
corner.
question and then we're gonna get to comments.
My question
Okay.
is, how do you mitigate the business zone? The business neighborhood, if you're gonna call out a residential neighborhood, can we also regulate in a business neighborhood?
So again, when it comes to sidewalk vending, our cities are restricted by what state law allows, and we can't consider economic competition as a factor. But if there's objective health, safety, welfare concerns, we can put regulations in place.
I mean, he has no restroom, so.
As an example, so we can say distance from a business and emergency exit, right? So those are the types of things that we can call out in the ordinance. Because, people need to have safe ingress and egress to a business. But again, the distance can't be so restrictive that it effectively bans any sort of sidewalk vending in the commercial zone. So there's that nuance that we have to juggle with SB 946.
What about the sanitary facilities? I mean, Stephanie's asking about that, so
I
that's.
mean, I can tell you where they use the restroom.
Exactly.
Thank you. We're curious if that's allowed in our nine buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's part of the time, place, manner restriction. So just because you could theoretically vend in a location, you need to comply with the health code, have access to restrooms as required. So those are things that we could require as part of the objective health, safety, and welfare concerns.
Just to back up, I also really appreciate you guys digging into this. Thank you, because I feel like this issue's been popping up and dying back down again and popping up. So it seems like you've really taken a hard look at it. So thank you for that.
Sure.
I have a follow-up question on yours and then we'll go back out because on the commercials. So if a vendor were to move onto the Home Depot parking lot and get permission from Home Depot corporate, wherever they are, wherever, they would be allowed to vend. There is, I don't want to say workaround, but if vendors were to go with private properties, I'm just trying to think of all the different nuances.
That's where the permit comes in.
It depends on what policy the city council wants to adopt.
So Home Depot, let's just.
Home Depot had a more like a food truck for many, many years pre-COVID.
So, but if they could have now apply for a permit to have the gentleman, whatever, it's whoever's on the corner or a food truck, so they would go, there would be a system to make that legal. They couldn't just arbitrarily do that.
Correct.
Okay. Mary.
I'm just curious, of the vendors that you've been seeing, how many, like, what kind of food or things are they vending? And because I know people who sell just like fruits and flowers and things like that. Is that also part of your look, or is it just hot foods, or like, I'm just wondering what the categories are.
I think there's two general buckets. One is like merchandise, one is food.
Okay.
And then
And others.
What?
Other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put that in.
So those are the kind of general, merchandise is a broad category, if you will. But and then
Do you have like a percentage? Like, I'm just curious, like how much, because it's very different regulations versus like, once you get food in, you have health department, you have other things that are required. And I'm just wondering how, like, out of the dozens that you've been seeing, is it like 50-50 or 60-40 food, merchandise? Just curious.
I'm not certain. I defer to our code enforcement staff, but I think the most of the concerns have been around food safety.
Yeah.
And there's also distinction between like hot food versus like
Yeah.
pre-sliced fruit or something.
Right, exactly.
So there's like nuances to this as you're
Okay.
highlighting.
Okay. Just kidding.
Other questions?
Yeah, I'm located at 175 Belvedere Street. I'm the heart of East San Rafael, the shopping center. You guys know where it is? Is it,
Belvedere Medway.
yeah, Midway, next door to the bowling alley.
Okay.
We own the property for over 50 years. And this food vending problem's been going on for 20 years plus.
But you're really excited about this meeting, aren't you?
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Do you have a
it won't come to
question?
your neighborhood.
Do you have a question? And then we can go to comments. Yeah, let's clarifying questions, and then we.
How are you addressing the trash and the grease disposal? Because there's, right on the corner there, there's a grate empties into that bay. And I've watched them take, after they're done frying, take their bucket and just pour it straight in there, and I'll tell them. And you got the little fish marker there and everything, and there used to be a huge garbage can on the corner, but Public Works downsized it. So now all the stuff ends up on my property.
And my
So exactly.
Yeah.
And not only with that, but the prostitutes, the spent condoms around our building and the little kids playing in there. And it's like, oh, look, no, stop.
Okay, so great question, and I think that Greg, hold on, sir. So Greg was talking about what the legislative package, which is a fancy way of saying the nuts and bolts of the ordinance. So how would that possibly address grease and the other unsanitary? Like, what would the wording possibly just be? I know the council has to
Yeah,
consider.
so we could establish standards, but as I mentioned before, it's one thing to have standards, it's another thing to actually enforce it. So
Okay.
that's why we've been talking to Marin County Environmental Health Services to see what we can do to utilize their more expansive legal authority to address unpermitted vendors, whether that's through confiscating the food or even the equipment that they have. So hopefully that would discourage people from setting up, but that's why we're here, because it's inappropriate to dump grease into the storm drain and trash on the sidewalk.
Well, and I've called Public Works a million times. I get no response.
Okay. well,
about the
we're-
grease on the
I
sidewalk.
completely understand your frustration, and we couldn't agree with you more. I totally agree with you, and that's why the city council in our most recent goals and objectives put this as one of our programs, which is a 3-year goals and objectives. We don't do things just in the dark.
For the past 20 years. it's going-
Well, you know what? I wasn't the mayor 20 years ago, so I'm the mayor today. And so in July, we passed this program and we're gonna have work plans and follow out. We share your frustration, but what I'm trying to do in this time with all these folks is to get to solutions. So it's not that we don't hear you, but I'm being sharp because I really want to have a discussion. I want to hear what you have to say. I heard it.
Well, that's why we're expressing.
But it's not in your neighborhood. If it's in front of your house.
Every part of San Rafael, I consider my neighborhood. So you can say that or, so, other questions before we get to comments and input, because this is coming before the council, and I hope you gentlemen are available that evening to come and speak, and if not, you can write an email, and that will be part of the public record, and I know that the county, I saw Sarah Jones, and she was willing to be there at the meeting, which I think would be really great. Any other questions on this topic? It's been around for a long time, but we're talking about it today. Okay, comments. Let me start with the vice mayor.
I think we need highest level, a carrot and a stick approach. The carrot is for our people, our entrepreneurs in San Rafael that want to legalize their business and want to grow business. I mean, I've been here long enough to remember when soul food was a booth at the Thursday Night Farmers Market.
Yep.
This is how our community grows. We want to encourage that. It sounds like 75% of these vendors don't fit that model, and they're not going to care. So the carrot is going to be irrelevant, I think, to 75% of them. But I don't want to lose sight of that. We also, it looks like, need to spend more of our time on the stick, and that is the enforcement part of this. We need to maximize the efficiency and the effectiveness of our ordinance. So if the best way to do that is to prohibit it in as large of an area as possible. Now here there's somebody sleeping in their office now over by Home Depot, so now it's a residential area.
I have AC.
Yeah, it's, so if that's the best strategy, then let's do that. And let's figure out what else we can do to most productively get these establishments off our streets. I'm particularly interested in the one by the in front of the post office. It's huge. It's a complex. The last time I drove by there, I saw 4 different propane tanks out there. Huge, huge risks to our community.
Hello, post office?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Can I interrupt you for a minute?
No.
I'm just-
Let the vice mayor finish.
No, so here we are. So what we need you to bring forward to the council as soon as possible is, again, presuming the entrepreneurial endeavors, an enforcement package that can work with the county if we need to, get extra overtime if we need to, bring forward what we need to address this problem in our neighborhoods.
Thank you. That is beautifully said. I do a question for you before I make my comment. So I know you have your East San Rafael recruit working group in October. Would there be an opportunity, and I'm not sure the appropriate timing, where city staff or myself or vice mayor or whoever, Councilman Micah, could come and speak to this? Because I know that East San Rafael is very, it's frustrated. It's been there for a long time, but I'm having.
Yes, sadly, we had a scheduling conflict with our August meeting because the city manager was supposed to attend and that would have been the ideal time and it didn't work out. So we've been meeting every other month, but we can add, we
Okay,
can add.
so let's talk about that, because I think that would be really
Because
great.
it's you in December and it's Redoni in October. But
Maybe
why don't
November.
we add?
Yeah.
Why don't we just add one? I would love that. I would
Okay,
welcome that.
Okay, thank you for that, because that would be another place where other frustration.
Because,
Yeah,
we've
100%.
had meetings where people are supposed to be chamber members, but I would think that we could just, it's my office, so I can invite whoever I want.
There you
So
go.
We could expand it out.
You always have great snacks.
Yeah,
Okay. So I 100% support what the vice mayor said about the carrot and the stick, and that what I would add to it is you had talked about yes to outside enforcement. We know our code enforcement people are out enforcing all sorts of things across the community. So when it comes before the council, it's including that, and we need to have an approximate budget. So when I hear the city's not doing anything, or the council asks, what's this gonna cost? And it doesn't have to be to the penny, but we need to have a sense, because we have finite resources, and it might mean if we're moving budget, and I'm looking down at the director, because I think it probably comes out of does it come under yours? So you actually have clear direction from the council and the community at that point, whether that number where it's landing is enough or not enough. Because that's one thing I hadn't heard, and we talked about $100,000 program, $50,000 program, and I know that we have used code enforcement contractors in the past, and they've been highly effective, but they're very, very expensive. So they've always been really time bound. Assistant city manager.
Yes, so as of this moment, we've identified funds within the CED budget, $50,000 to enhance enforcement. And so certainly the council can advise at the meeting when we talk about the fiscal impact and what the council may want to see in terms of enhancing that, or if it thinks that's sufficient, but that's what we've identified in the existing budget so far.
Thank you. And then the last, I just want to underscore something Vice Mayor said, and really honestly, Greg, it's off of what you said about the confiscation and the fact that you have vendors that are like, if you just take my food away, the person that's making me be here is going to send me back to San Rafael tomorrow. First of all, that whole human trafficking component is just abhorrent. So confiscation, and I've said this, and I know, and we should start with props, because I know that both Angela and Greg and Micah have been working with the county to get that confiscation piece. Just so you know, the county's been, for a variety of reasons that are totally legitimate, a little bit leery about doing the confiscation. We've been very strong that until you really have that ginormous stick, that they're really bad offenders. So I know that you're working on that, and I'm glad the county has been willing to use the tools that they have access to that we might not have to. So that direction clear enough? So, Director, any other comments from what you heard on this item? Because I know.
No, as I said, this is a layer of complexities on this. We've come across this. I know it's been a longstanding issue. And really just trying to find that balance, right? So.
And then for those that are watching or in the room to know, when is the meeting? If you don't already subscribe to Snapshot, you can go onto the city website, put Snapshot in the search bar, and it always says what's coming up on the city's agenda. So you'll know exactly when it's coming to the council. So wonderful. Thank you. that is a huge amount of work, and I couldn't be more delighted this is coming to the full council for consider the recommendation and approval, hopefully. You only have two of us here, so they hear from you.
Are we allowed to make some other comments?
Go ahead, Miriam, and then we're
Just-
gonna go to the next agenda item.
I just want to also emphasize, I know that this is a part of maybe a longer term strategy too, but if we could, as a county, approve MECO licenses, I think that could actually be done in support of creating, like, I was just looking at some of the rules, like while a MECO license can't do a direct vendor selling, but they can if it work with a permitted mobile food operation, which means that that could help make it on the back end for you guys, you know, more legit for everybody. And then it helps with the immigrants and other individuals that are challenged where MECO might be their only option because they can only have a home kitchen. So just putting that out there, because I know that's been also like kind of slowed from the supervisors. And, you know, if the city wanted to also get behind that and say, like, we want to support this as a county level, you know, I think there's a lot of benefit for that program getting approved here.
And just to clarify, MECO is the acronym for Micro Enterprise Home Kitchens Operations. And that was part of another state law to kind of lower barriers of entry for food entrepreneurs, to allow people to essentially have a restaurant in their house if the county health agency authorizes the program, and there are limitations on how many meals you can serve per week and how many what the total amount of gross sales per year. But it is like a way to, MECOs can serve as like a commissary, if you will, for a limited number of mobile vendors. And Marin County considered the option in June, I believe. And then they kind of continued it. There was some concern about that
Taking away from restaurants and stuff.
yeah,
but
so I'm not sure exactly where that landed, but I
it's
think
still in conversation and it's still, I think, agenda item that they will be discussing. And I think there's more voice in the community saying, yes, this is something that we really do want and there's a need for it, you know.
That's helpful. And Derek, I saw him last night, and I know that they are building out their kind of economic program, and we're really good at coattails for that kind of program, just because they have more staff and resources. But I think your point is really well made. Okay, thank you. We are going to move on to the next item, which is the development pipeline interactive map.
So, I can maybe bring up the website. Yeah, sure.
If you hover over that window and press play. Or in the lower left-hand corner there.
I see how many others that can do this stuff because I really can't. So one thing we want to highlight is some of the web tools we're trying to develop to actually help the community understand really what's happening and scroll over. This is a interactive GIS website that's actually on the city's main page. If you go into the development pipeline, you can actually get this interactive development projects map that actually highlights, you know, like locations of projects and allows people to actually scroll in on their neighborhoods or hey, what's happening in downtown, what's going on in North Santa Fe. You can actually go to the different project map and zoom in and actually get details of information on the current statuses. So it's just one of those opportunities we have to kind of build out some of the technology tools, kind of support this and provide clarity of kind of where it is in process. There's a lot of projects going on. And so we've done different presentations to this committee prior, and we continue to get more. So exciting times with change. Changes are coming. So that's really want to recognize that. But here's one of the tools to try to keep everybody informed on what it is, where it's at, what it looks like, and the current status. So I do want to call out the city's internal teams for actually creating this. It's a nice, just as I said, a product to help support kind of information and transparency of what's happening. With that, that's it.
Questions, Vice Mayor? I don't have any questions. Any questions from the group on this tool?
I just have a quick question. About 10 or 12 years ago, the Latino Council got a grant to work with the Marin Community Foundation, like to do stuff like this regarding community wellness. Can you overlay those maps that you have with other maps that have been developed? I'm not
I'm sure we can. I mean, we actually subscribe to a countywide GIS system that really has different layers of information. So that might be something to explore from the countywide perspective. 'Cause I know actually it expands beyond Santa Fe. So, but I do think there is those opportunities. It is a county program that we subscribe to, but then there's layers of information and data sets. So if there's something that's been created that kind of helps, provide information, I think that'd be something to explore.
Other questions on this? Yeah, Sarah, Roger.
I just want to say I love this. I absolutely love it. And I'm putting it on our downtowncenterfell.org website because I get these questions quite frequently about what's going on. Goldstone is not on there. And I know that's because there hasn't been a permit submitted yet, but that's the #1 question that I get probably like once a month on the status. So if there's anyone here that knows what's going on, I'd love to be informed.
Could I also change that into a question? Because that is such a central project, would it be possible to have a one-off? I wouldn't do this for all of it, to say, to put the Goldstone and say, no project's been submitted, so it's just not, or is that just get it way too complicated and we're opening a can of worms?
I think we'll take it under consideration, look at the pros and cons of that. The hard part is this map reflects active projects, like someone physically came in and made an application. That's what it reflects, but if we'll have to talk about conceptual projects.
That's fair. Okay.
It's a lot, so.
Okay, no, that's super fair, I understand. Yeah, Roger.
I'm just curious if this program is automatic, or do you have to manually, if let's say a demolition permit is issued on a project, which would be the current status, would that automatically go here and nobody has to do anything, or does somebody have to go through all these projects to keep them maintained?
No, we go through every one of these projects to keep them maintained. There's, we have to remember though, these all tie into like a deeper, like projects page that actually has kind of like the application materials, information, the current status. So that's something we actively do, and that's just part of the process to make sure that they are accurately reflected. So, but there is resources that we've applied to make sure that these things are actually updated.
Okay, and just a potential weakness, if these things get out of date, then people become cynical about them, and then it's more, more disrespect of city.
Yeah. And then Roger calls me and I go update
Yeah,
it. So
I don't think that's optimal.
but we do get those questions, and that's why we are systematically working towards keeping these things updated. And anytime there's a project change or status update, we really do look forward to that. Also, we're trying to better define, like, if you've seen some of the detailed information we have on this, it's a lot of planning jargon. Like, that sounds awesome. I have no idea what that means. So trying to simplify that, at least for with the public consumption. So like under construction versus demo, like there are different categories within it. So we're trying to do a better job of bite-sized information that actually people make sense to people. So,
well, no, I mean, I think it's a fabulous program. I'm just maintaining these things manually just gets, you guys get busy. There's lots of, as you point out, there's lots of projects. There's other things to do besides keep your software up to date.
Yep, point taken. Questions on this? Great. I'll add a comment. I saw the mayor of Corte Madera pulled me aside yesterday and talked specifically about this. So you are upping the game for all of the Marin County cities and towns. And to Cecilia's point, like if other cities and towns start to do it, maybe there is a role that the county can start to overlay. But I'm sure that other city, I don't know if it was presented at the city manager meeting, but somehow he knew about this and he was like, this is amazing. So additional comments, Vice Mayor, on this? No, fantastic. Great. And I know having that additional bite size and both defining what it means to be permitted in construction, I'm sure that's somewhere on there because it means different things to different people. So having that defined. Fantastic. And the big takeaway on this, you guys are busy. I know that there's more projects here in the last year than there have been in the last 15 years, maybe 30 years, ever. I'm saying 30 years, every. So thank you. Okay, not any further comments on that. We'll move along to the next item, which is special event permit and process update.
So with this one, I'm gonna turn over to
Hello, hi Selena.
Thank you. I'll keep it short and sweet. We were last at this committee in June to provide an update about the transition to happen in July, which did happen July 1st. So the program for the special events permitting transitioned from the Santa Fe Police Department to Community and Economic Development successfully. So with this transition, we've actually transitioned the software as well. So we migrated from our old software to our new software, OpenGov, which is going to be the city's licensing and permitting. So that actually launched last week on Friday. And so we've migrated applications over to there. There's only about 2 that needed to move over. Staff was able to close out the rest of that in the old program. So with that helps the transparency process to allow where applicants are at in the process for the review with staff. Applicants can actually contact staff directly who's under that review and ask any questions of where they're at in the status. And so we're excited to be able to implement that right now as we're transitioning community and economic development to the system in the future as well. So the next item on that agenda is for year-end call for application. So this would mean we're actually going to ask applicants to apply for those permits early. So throughout the year, these applications come in pretty often. And sometimes, quite very close to the event date as well. So to help take some of the lift off of staff and pushing reviews pretty quickly, we're going to do a call for applications to have applicants apply early to allow that to get off staff plate. Because a lot of it is applications that have come through before. So a lot of annual events like Hops and Vine and Porch Fest, those types of things. So we'll ask for those to go in sooner. And then with that, we're going to do a call for a survey as well. And this is going to help staff understand sponsorship a little bit more and what the community needs and what applicants are asking for. So we're drafting the survey actively right now, but essentially it's going to include questions about what types of fundings applicants are interested, like in kind or money, because with these applications coming throughout the year, we get all those questions all the time and to a lot of different departments. So we're really trying to hone in on what applicants are asking for, what the community is looking for, and that'll help influence some of our recommendations in the future to bring back to council as well. In addition to that, we are tracking what the city is providing right now, like in kind and money like that. And so that'll be in addition to that information. So staff will return to the subcommittee with that information in the future. So once the application goes out at the end of this year, the survey will go out as well. And then we'll accumulate all of that and then bring it back to the council for the subcommittee for information. Yeah. Any questions?
Will it go to the council then after it comes to the subcommittee?
Yeah, once we get a little more guidance and recommendation from the subcommittee, we'll be able to take the full package to the council.
One more question. And the other question, so neighborhood association picnics, does that fall under this? Because I know that there's neighborhoods that have been doing it for 50 years and the city comes and puts up the blocks of street and they haven't had to do permits, they haven't had to pay. So what's going to happen for those? Because there's the Hops and Vines, which is one thing in our downtown, but then it's, the West End Party or whatever, and that's not a great example. But anyway, so how are you dealing with?
So the smaller neighborhood events, they do have to apply for the special events permit and the encroachment permit. And that helps staff track what equipment needs to go out. It helps staff understand from PD and fire side what events are going on in the city as well for public safety as well. So they would continue to go through that process and they would get the survey too. But we do want to make the survey go out to the broader community because we know the sponsorship program doesn't exist right now. We have the special events program. So we want to get a more equitable program to understand what other events are missing out there that could apply. And then also make sure that we're understanding those needs as well. But yes, those smaller community events would be included.
So they would have permits. Would there be a possibility where they would not have to pay a fee or the fee would be super nominal? I mean, neighborhood associations, people have to pay like $10 to join. So is that being considered or how's that being looked at?
That would be as part of the recommendation. So staff will review what the current fees are right now, any potential that could be applied. It's really taking a look at what staff time is being allocated to that from Public Works. That would be the main cost, and dropping off barricades, taking the barricades, any police presence as well.
Okay, well, maybe one thing to think about as you look at those fees is, do we as a community want to subsidize neighborhood gatherings? My sense would probably be yes. We tend to be a community-oriented city. Because if we have a $500 fee, it's just not going to happen. And we will just get bombarded from neighborhoods that have been meeting forever with
It's also, Mayor Kate, it's also an opportunity to really kind of track those charges or those dollars that come out there for staff resources.
Yeah, no, I think that's
Really
fair.
just recognizing from a council policy perspective to say that we are purposely subsidizing these.
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more, but just to have, so we understand we're making a deliberate policy decision about that.
Exactly.
And also to provide some information about how to keep your costs down. For example, don't have it on the street, so you don't need the blockades.
Yeah.
Things like that. to help our keep the program going, but not have all these costs.
Agreed. It is our desire to continue the Little League Parade. Yes, so like the
Yeah.
things that we do as a
Yeah,
community.
yeah.
But it's just recognizing these are the pieces, but then it's really opportunity for, as we transitioned departments to really take a deeper dive on this program and how to build in efficiencies and the transparency about process, because we've done it a lot of different ways over time, and then we've grown. So just recognizing kind of the needs. And then that's why even the policy directive from council about these are the parts and pieces. What bubbles up in terms of value for the council.
100%. So I'll take any questions and or comments from anyone in the room. Any questions on this item? Sarah, no questions or comments? It's like,
Great.
okay, no, because you were probably, everyone in this room, you're closest to this.
Yeah, no, I mean, having a process and application and working with Selena, I think is gonna be fantastic.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that we're on the right track.
Yeah.
Thank you, Selena, for all your work on this. It's always hard to transition something. And to have a transition to something better is fantastic. So thank you. So the final item on our agenda is a public art program update. And I'm going to.
I will take that.
Get off.
Alright.
Yes.
We wanted to provide a top line update of the program that your council approved back in June. We had come to the council requesting approval of a contract with Local Edition Creative to help us implement a public art program in 2025 and 2026, specifically placing 5 pieces of public art on city-owned property. So I wanted to provide an update. We've created for the city's main webpage its own distinct landing page that provides general information about the program. There's a timeline and there's a FAQ, frequently asked questions section. Here's the timeline of the program. We are nearly in October, so I can report that we had a jury of about 8 participants that reviewed over 120 applications that were reviewed by Local Edition Creative. There was an amazing response to the call for artists that went out. Local Edition helped us sort of select the top candidates for each of the 5 locations, and the jury reviewed those and came up with semifinalists for each of the 5 locations. At this time, the finalists are going through like their design and thinking phase, where they're coming up for site-specific designs for the places that they've been assigned to design for. And those final design or those draft designs will come in on October 6th. We have planned for a public comment period from October 20th through November 3rd. Local Edition's creating a website and a QR code and also paper like flyers, so that we're gonna distribute those throughout the community, and people will be able to go onto a site and see the proposals for each location, and they'll be able to provide some qualitative feedback on those. And then Local Edition and I will also be at least 2 public in-person events in the city, both probably located in the plaza. So what we can catch people walking by live and in person, present them with the flyer that we have, and they can go home and look digitally, or we will also have like signage boards where people can see the art that's been proposed by each of the artists. Following that feedback period, we will provide feedback to the artists so they can finalize their designs. And then the final designs will come back to the jury for review in November, mid-November. And then once the jury has selected the finalist pieces of work, then we will bring that to the Public Art Review Board, consistent with our Public Art Review program. And then the Public Art Review Board will make a recommendation to City Council. So I just wanted to review with you the timeline. We are on track with the timeline that was presented to Council back in November. And I invited Sage and Terry Loring here, who are with Local Edition Creative. We have a meeting later today to talk about some operational details. And I thought it was a perfect opportunity to have them here if anyone has questions about the program.
Fantastic, Stacy. Welcome.
Thank you.
Anything you wanted to add or what was?
Perfect.
Well, I mean, it was a tremendous response to the call for artists. So we're really excited with the quality of the artists and the applications that came in for all of it. It was great. We feel really excited and proud about the quality of work that is being produced at this moment. And we're hoping, everyone will feel in the community like these pieces really represent different facets of what the community holds just culturally and all different things. So we'll be sharing those very soon. It's possible that maybe we'll be able to put some of these proposals on display, maybe in City Hall lobby for a week too. So but everything has been going well and going pretty much as planned so far. So we'll just keep at it.
Thank you. Thank you for your guidance on this. Can you speak to the jury part? Because we understand the public art review process, we understand the council role and the jury, just so people can know.
Absolutely, sure. So the Downtown San Rafael Arts District is a designation from the state of California that identified, going a little broad view first, identified downtown San Rafael as one of 14 cultural districts in the state of California. So a really nice feather in San Rafael's cap. The applicants for that were 5 arts organizations in downtown San Rafael. So San Rafael and those arts organizations are administering the California Arts Council grant together. So the jury and this program was sort of devised by those 5 arts organizations and the city. And so the jury was identified as a representative of each of those arts organizations, plus 2 at-large members who are both artists and gallerists. So we invited those folks that are also part of the downtown San Rafael art scene. So there are about 8 jurists, I believe, including Local Edition Creative as one vote as well.
I think it's important to recognize because we have professionals looking at it and the council, not to take anything away from us, but probably not our strong suit in assessing art. So knowing that the jury has looked at it, the public art review group, which really is a wide group of people who all have their fingers and toes in the kind of art world. So when it does, I just want to, people can give input, but when it comes to the council, just to.
You don't want people to say, why'd you pick that piece?
Yeah.
To show how it got to that.
Oh, they're gonna say it.
Other questions on this? This is a pretty exciting program.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, or comments.
Yeah, make your comments.
I want to say, if I can add something in there too, that a lot of this process that we have in place for the steps here in San Rafael to from the jurying to the public comment to when it reaches city council, a lot of this is modeled after how San Francisco's Art Commission does it too. So just so everybody kind of understands the process, we really have looked at the different ways that different cities have approached this. And in this particular instance, we just felt how San Francisco goes about it is a good way to follow for this process here. So it's a very tried and true way of making sure we hit all of the right people, both that, like you said, that know professionally, but then public gets an opportunity. And so we're really trying to make sure that we're hitting the whole holistic approach with how we get to the end result.
Fantastic. I'm curious, Sarah, put you on the spot, the 25th and 26th, is that the trick or treating downtown that weekend?
Yeah, trick or treat on 4th Street's October 25th.
See, perfect. Yeah, having people that I'm sure, I know that you already did, I knew that you did that deliberately, so but I didn't highlight. I wanted to highlight for the group that you were all thinking about this. Any other comments on this item?
I just want to say, having been a part of the process in the very beginning with the Leadership Institute, we did the utility box art, and then the program had just started. So the process, that was several years ago. So this is great to see this. I just want to say it's good to see the process is getting honed down to something really welcoming for some.
I can agree with you more, manifesting that we are a cultural arts district. So what does that mean? So now we actually have something to say, this is what it means. It's manifesting, one of the ways it's manifesting. So thank you, Stacy, for your leadership.
And I also wanted to add that the BID created a matching grant fund for private buildings. So there's private property, there's gonna be some public art that's gonna hopefully be going up soon on Meta, T&B, and Art ARTT on C Street.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Miriam, you had a comment.
Yeah, I was just curious, with the public feedback, like how does that, I just had a question around that. Like, how does that work? Like, how do you bring in the public feedback and address the comments or feedback that people give?
It's just consideration. Obviously, it's like anything else. You can't look at thousands of comments and say, well, we're gonna go ahead and, make changes based on this. It's a litmus test.
Okay.
It's a generalization. The main thing about public comment is this, it's public art. There's always gonna be a piece like, well, I don't like that. I like that one.
Yeah.
It's very
That's
subjective.
what I was wondering.
It's all about people not being surprised by it. It's not about a bind of them liking every piece. It's like, oh, public art's coming. It's about being informed as a city that you're doing this. But now you take an aggregate, because this is all going to be captured as, we have a way you can capture, make a graph even too, a couple of very basic questions that we have on there that'll just go, yep, this is really hitting it. And if there's something that we're missing, we can actually, when the artist is going to install his design, make small adjustments based on that at the very end. But it's just litmus test, and it's for people not to be surprised by it. And it's also marketing. The more people are seeing this, they're going to buzz about it. We're creating a very organic marketing, and they start posting online on their own social accounts. When they see these in person and they get to go online as well, they're driving traffic. So it creates a really good buzz about it.
Fantastic. Great question. Great question. All right. Well, not seeing anything else other than gratitude. Stacey, thanks again. I know this has been a big project, and it's super exciting to have this going forward. Thank you both for continued involvement. The next item on our agenda is future agenda items. So I turn to the director. We know Selena's going to come back at some point, but in our next meeting's December 10th.
Yeah, I think there's multiple opportunities for status updates on various, economic development activities. I think right now our next regular scheduled one is in December, but depending on items that come up, there may be a need for a special, but that's to be determined.
I think it's helpful to have the date certain, so all these people in the room can put it on their calendar. And then Greg, or if you could follow up with Stephanie to figure out about the East Somerville Working Group date, because I think that would be really, really helpful. And thank you for hosting that. Sure. Adding another meeting. All right. Well, we got through a little bit earlier, but an hour and a half meeting is always a really long meeting. So we always try to get between 60 minutes and 90. So you have 20 extra minutes to do something fantastic in the world. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
Yeah.
No.
I love everything on positive.
Sorry, would you like to add to?
I'm sorry for the.
Exactly. It's public art and the body of it. It's just that was just.
This would be all the agenda.
It's just. There was actually more than that.
It's fine, so it's like, oh, it's just like
We would have had more, but we didn't actually market it too heavy because we didn't need it for abundance. We didn't need that. We had to qualify. So.
Why don't you send me an email so that I have your contact information so that the others can